Hey there everyone, welcome back to my channel, Diana and the Book Hunt. Today I'm going to be doing a trope recommendation video because the last one that I did was quite some time ago. I'm going to link it above in the cards. I believe it was the sports romance recommendations that I did. I really enjoyed that video to make it, obviously. And then now I want to make another trope recommendation video where I'm focusing on a different trope. Like one of my favorite YouTubers, Michae. I absolutely love forbidden and taboo tropes within books. The one that I'm going to focus on today is the age gap trope. I love both varieties of age gaps where we have the woman who is older and the man who is younger, but also the man who is older and the woman who is younger. Both of those varieties work for me, but for the sake of today's video, I'm going to be focusing on books that have a older man and a younger woman. The books that I've picked today, some of them are all-time favorites of mine, and some of them I've just recently read and they've become favorites of mine this year. So I really cannot wait to talk to you about these books because, especially for the first one that I'm going to mention, I know that I can talk for hours about that book because I just simply love, adore, and am obsessed with it. So let's just dive in. Let me tell you which book that is. The first book is by Kristen Becker Ritchie, and no, it's not the Calloway sisters because those books have been mentioned everywhere on BookTube, and I feel like the book that I am going to talk about is kind of left in the dust, which is a shame because it's an absolute gem of a book. The book, so there is a bit of a confusion with this book because the first name, the first title that it had was Amour Amour, and the series that it's within is called Circus's Family. Now, the name of the series is still the same, Circus's Family, but they have rebranded it with a new cover and given it a new name, and I think the new name is called The Field Audition. For the sake of the fact that I'm kind of nostalgic, I read this book maybe 5 years ago, if I'm not mistaken, and I absolutely loved it, and I still remember it very vividly. I'm going to put up the cover of the first title and book because I also like it more, but you can definitely look it up on Goodreads with the new title, The Field Audition, so you can see what it looks like now. Yeah, let me just tell you what this book is about. The book is about Thora, who is an aerialist. She desperately wants to join this high-end circus in Las Vegas. So she moves from a small town in the middle of nowhere to Las Vegas to take a chance and do an audition for the circus. Unfortunately, her first audition doesn't go very well, so she doesn't get picked up right away, and she kind of has two choices. She can just quit and go back with her tail between her legs, or basically cut through and be strong and try again and again until she gets accepted. So she decides to do the second option and is absolutely determined to get her way and get into the circus. Now, during her audition, the failed one, I believe that is where she met Nikolai, who is part of the Kotova family, who are this Russian family that is very influential within this circus. All of them are performers within this circus production company. And Nikolai is the oldest sibling within this family, and he is also, I believe, the choreographer for this new production that they're doing. And he decides to help Thora because he sees some kind of potential within her. So they kind of form a partnership together so that he can help her out to get into the production, and he can get someone into the production whom he believes that is going to be performing well for the production. So there is a mutual benefit to their partnership, but also I failed to mention this is a slow burn book, so bear in mind that the romance progresses slowly. But for me, this is the absolute best type of romance because we don't dive into the physical attraction too fast. There is no insta love. There is some pining. There is some angst within the book, and that kind of thrills me most of the time within books. So I definitely loved all these aspects within the books. The fact that there is a definite 10-year age gap, if I'm not mistaken. She's about 20 or 21. He's between 30 and 35, so definitely 10 years at the least. And again, the slow burn, pining, angst, and what I failed to mention also that is absolutely very kind of important to this book is that it's not only about the romance, but very much about circus life, which I absolutely loved. We have the Korova family, so we focus on different siblings as well. We don't focus on Nikolai only. We see bits and pieces of their family life and dynamic. We see that some of them have some kind of problems that Nikolai also needs to deal with as the oldest sibling. So yeah, Kristen Becker Ritchie just do family dynamics so well within their books. We also know that from the Calloway sisters series, and yeah, I absolutely adore this book. If you haven't picked it up yet, I think it's wildly underhyped. I think that it deserves as much hype as the Calloway sisters series, so if you haven't picked this one up, please definitely do. The next book I'm going to mention is by Mariana Zapata. I think that everyone knows this author as the author who writes the best slow burn romances, and the book that I'm going to mention is definitely a slow burn romance. But I think that what is interesting within this book is that there is a definite age gap between the two characters. The book is called All Roads Lead Here, and I read it, I think, in 2021, just when it came out, if I'm not mistaken. And I absolutely loved it because it had so many different facets within the book that intrigued me. The first thing is that the heroine is someone who has just gotten out of a very serious relationship, and she's kind of in a very pivotal point in her life where she's kind of trying to get back to the roots of herself, and she decides to do so by going back to her hometown where she had left after a very big tragedy within her life. Her mother used to be a hiker in her hometown, and she got lost on one of those hikes and never came back. So Aurora left after this tragedy and has never come back to her hometown after that moment. Now she's coming back to kind of reconcile with her past, trying to move on with the tragedy that she lived through with her mother, but also trying to kind of find herself after the failed relationship that she had. And what she does is she rents this apartment from this guy. His name is Amos. It's kind of like this above the garage type of apartment. And when she gets there, she loves it. But it turns out that Amos is a teenager who he kind of, without the consent of his dad, rented out the apartment because he wants to buy, if I'm not mistaken, a guitar or something like that. And then when his dad comes home, he is absolutely livid that Amos did something like that. The dad, his name is Rhodes, and he's presented as this silver fox type of guy. He is, I believe, some kind of a ranger. And when he comes home and he finds this strange woman in this apartment that they own, he absolutely flips. He kind of makes her go away. He kind of shoos her out of there. And then he immediately feels remorse that he did that. And yeah, he lets her stick around until she finds another option. And he's a definite grump. I do have to say he's an absolute grump. While she's more, I wouldn't say that she's an absolute sunshine, but she's definitely more like inclined to be a sunshine. And the most beautiful part about this book is not only the blossoming romance between Rhodes and Aurora, but also the relationship between Aurora and Amos, the teenager. There's just so much going on within this book. It's the personal journey of Aurora in finding herself and reconciling with her past with her mom, herself working through her situation with her past relationship, her new bond that she forms with Amos, and also her new budding feelings that she has towards Rhodes. There's just so much goodiness going on within this book that it's definitely one that I don't understand why anyone wouldn't like. So yeah, I definitely recommend this one. If you haven't picked up any Mariana Zapata book yet, this one is a very good one to start with. I believe that the next book is really popular everywhere on all platforms, TikTok and BookTube and Bookstagram as well. But I'm going to mention it anyway because it's a favorite of mine as well. I'm a basic person like that. I love hyped books. So I'm going to mention them on my channel as well because I love them as well. The book is Birthday Girl by Penelope Douglas, and it's not only taboo because it's an age gap romance, but it's also boyfriend's dad romance, which is really taboo. We have Jordan and Pike, the romance between these two characters. Jordan is, I believe, 19, if I'm not mistaken. She has a boyfriend, and they get into this tough situation where they're left without a place to stay. So Pike invites them to his home until they find a more suitable option. So herself and her boyfriend, they move over to Pike's place. Jordan is the type of person who is very mature for her age. She's 19 going on 29, possibly because she's very hardworking. She wants to be independent. She feels very uncomfortable staying at her boyfriend's dad's place because she kind of feels like she needs to have her own space. And that is absolutely the opposite of what her boyfriend is like. He's very immature. He's very not ready for the real world. If you ask me, he doesn't know how to behave in a more mature way. He's not very independent. He's not very hardworking. So we have that very big contrast between these two. And Pike, who is the dad, he definitely is frustrated by this whole situation because he sees the attitude of his son, and then he sees how Jordan is the absolute opposite of his son, and he admires her for it. And again, this is a slow burn romance, which I think is the best way to approach such a situation, because obviously, besides the fact that it's taboo because there is a big age gap. I think Pike is about 38 or 39 and she's 19. The fact that they live together with the boyfriend in question makes it very tricky. So if they would have jumped their bones already from the start of the story, it would have been very anticlimactic and very off-putting. But the fact that they really took the time, they really had a lot of conversations together, Jordan and Pike. They got to know each other, and they kind of fell for each other in the process of admiring each other's ethics, morals, way of thinking, communication skills, and that is what drew me to this book. So yeah, I definitely recommend this one. The hype is definitely worth it. If you haven't read this yet, where have you been living? Because everyone has been talking about this book for a couple of years now. And yeah, you definitely need to pick it up if you haven't read it yet. So the next book I think was also popular on BookTube for some time. I think a lot of people mention it, like definitely Jess, and I also think Michae, and definitely I'm going to link Michae's handle down below so you can check out her channel if you don't follow her yet, because she has a lot of taboo recommendations and a lot of age gap recommendations that you can check out on her channel as well. But going back to the book, I want to mention the book is called Don't Kiss the Bride by Carrie Ann Cole. This book I think is a bit different than all the rest that I've mentioned because it really starts off with different types of intentions at the beginning of the book. We have our main heroine, Skylar, who she's 18 in the book, and she's still in high school. She has some kind of, I think, a chronic illness for which she needs medication, and she also lives in a home with her mom, who is a hoarder. and the hoarding situation has gotten so out of hand that it's kind of not safe for her to live in her home anymore. So she's in a very dire situation, and in comes our hero Jude, who works at a construction company, or he owns the construction company actually. He's building a house very close to Skylar's school, and I believe that they meet when she has some kind of trouble with her car and he helps her out. They get to talking, and there's different instances where they meet each other, and he kind of finds out that she's in a dire situation, and he proposes a marriage of convenience where they get married so that she can get his health benefits, but she can also get out of that house and come to live with him, where she can have the guest room and they can be roommates. He definitely makes it very clear to her that he does not want this to be a romantic situation, because she's 18, he's in his 30s, so he feels uncomfortable with a romantic situation, which I do appreciate, because he really feels like he wants to help her out and doesn't want anything in return. And then, yeah, they get married. They start to live together and they have a lot of conversations. He finds out a lot about her, not only that she has this chronic illness and that she had a very tough situation at home, but she's also battling an eating disorder with which he's trying to help. And throughout the progression of the book, there are romantic feelings that evolve, and they're kind of really battling their feelings because of the age gap within the book. So it's a big deal to them that there is such a big age gap between them. And I do appreciate that, but I do think that because of those issues, the romance kind of suffered a little bit. That's why I didn't give it 5 stars, but it's definitely a solid 4-star read for me at least, and I definitely recommend that you check it out if you haven't read it yet. The next book I'm going to mention is possibly the steamiest book out of the, what is it, 6 books that I'm going to mention. The book is called Hush Hush by Lucia Franco, and it revolves around Aubrey, who is in her, like, she's 20 or 21 again, and she gets an opportunity through her best friend and roommate to become a high-end escort. She takes this opportunity because obviously it involves a lot of money. She is in a bit of a crunch, so she wants to try it out, and she actually falls for one of her first clients, who is, his name is James, and he is in his 50s, so there is a very big age gap here, about 30 years. And the book is really interesting because besides the fact that it's very steamy, there's just a lot of development for the main character, because she really starts off as this regular college girl who is very oblivious towards a lot of things in life, and then a completely new world opens itself up to her when she takes this opportunity, and she meets a lot of men, but also she meets James, who is a very experienced and very kind of a, I don't know how to properly explain what I mean, but he's the type of person from whom you can learn a lot, not only because of his experience, but because of the way that he thinks. So yeah, she definitely is in for a very big awakening within the story. And yeah, I definitely love this book because it was long, but it was fast paced. So even though I think I read the audiobook and it's like a 13 or 14-hour audiobook, I flew through it. It was so engaging. Not one moment was I thinking that I was bored or that something was not essential to the story. And also, like this theme is on point. The spicy scenes were really hot, and really it wasn't to a disadvantage of the book, if you know what I mean, because a lot of times when you have a book that has a lot of steam in it, the steam kind of takes over and the romance gets on the back burner, and then you kind of feel like you're reading an erotic novel and not a romance. But in this situation, it didn't feel like that. The only thing that bothered me is towards the end, there is a very big plot twist that kind of impacts also the ending of the story. I did like the ending of the story and how that plot twist was resolved in the end, but the plot twist itself was was a bit. Um, I would have chosen for something else, if I can express myself like this, because I don't want to spoil anything. But yeah, it was a definite 4-star read, even maybe 4.5 star if I think about it now, because at that point I gave it 4 stars because the plot twist was really working me up. But now that I think about it, I really, really appreciated this story, and I definitely recommend it if you haven't picked it up yet. The last book that I'm going to mention is one that I really adored. I finished it this year and I was really pleasantly surprised by it. It's called Everything for You by Chloe Lees, and it's part of the Bergman Brothers series. It's the 5th book, which follows the 5th sibling within this family. His name is Oliver, and this book is actually a male-male romance. Oliver is a soccer player at this like big shot soccer team in the United States, and they attract the UK player who is more of a veteran, and he has been a big star in the UK. His name is Gavin. And the interesting thing within the story is that Oliver, who is in his mid-20s, he has always been a fan of Gavin's. So we have the fanboy trope within this book as well, which I absolutely love. So Oliver is in his mid-20s, while Gavin is in his mid-30s, or kind of end of his 30s. And they play for the same team now, but they're more rivals than they are teammates at the beginning, because they're kind of vying for the same position, for the captain position within the team. And within this story, we have Oliver, who is an absolute sunshine. He is the epitome of a sunshine character, always positive, always making room to make other people feel happy and smiling, and using banter and jokes, and just always positive behavior to influence others as well. While Gavin is the absolute grump, and I think that he's possibly one of the biggest grumpy heroes that I've read about in stories that I can think of. He is very much influenced by the fact that he realizes that his career is almost over. He has a lot of traumas, like physical traumas, because soccer is a very demanding sport. And he is really slowly but surely realizing that his career is almost over, and he doesn't know how he will proceed once he finishes his career. And then he sees Oliver, who is just starting off his career, and he's at the peak of his abilities. He doesn't have any physical traumas, and he is kind of jealous, I think. He's kind of, maybe not jealous, but envious of the fact that Oliver has this beautiful time ahead of him. And maybe he feels like Oliver doesn't appreciate it all the same as that he would have, now that he has the experience that everything is over in a flash. So yeah, I think that there is a bit of animosity from Gavin's side, but it's a kind of a personal animosity that Oliver doesn't understand. So there's a lot going on between these two, but we have such beautiful scenes within this book. We have a caretaking scene that I can gush about all day. I absolutely love that scene. And yeah, it's a definite gem of a book. I wouldn't say that it's my favorite Bergman Brothers series book, but it's definitely in my top 3. And if you want to read a bit of a different age gap romance, so this one is an MM romance, we focus on grumpy sunshine more than the other tropes that we mentioned for the other books. So if you're interested in such a book, please pick this one up. These were the 6 romance books that I wanted to recommend to you that involve an age gap within the book. I absolutely love this trope, and I do have a couple of more books that I can think of that I can do a second video with sometime in the future. If you're interested in that, please let me know below, and let me know also if you've read any of the books that I mentioned and what you thought about them. And if you haven't read them, please pick them up and then let me know what you thought about them, because some of these are really some of my favorites, and I definitely want to know if you like them as much as I did. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I hope to see you very soon in the next one. Have a wonderful, marvelous day. Happy reading. Take care. Bye.